Hello.
Hi there, everybody. Coming to you live.
This is Democrat and a Republican walk into a bar. I'm, of course, your Republican, Sean Hartman. With me, of course, our Democrat.
Dr. Cindy Banyai, and we are live here at Ollie's Pub and Records in Cape Coral.
Yep. Very happy to be here. Back to our normal, regular schedule. Back to our normal Sundays. How was your week, Cindy?
Well, good. So it was the last week of school, so kids were out of school. So trying to get a good summer experience. We're doing some swimming in the pool, cleaning up books and setting a new summer routine for me and the kids, as I'm sure many people around Southwest Florida and the whole United States, actually.
We're actually going to be moving my grandparents to they have a living facility that we're moving them up in Fort Myers. Okay. And one of the things we've been talking about is the pool there that me and my we're all going to be utilizing, since we both me and my mom both love swimming. And there's really not, here in Cape Coral, there's only one indoor pool. Obviously the yacht club's actually shut down right now.
It's like, that's a big controversy here in Cape Coral now, actually.
Yes, with yacht club.
We could touch on that a little bit, because that's got everybody mad.
I mean, I'm usually not the biggest fan of talking local, since we do have a lot of people from all over. But yeah, let's actually start with that, because there's been quite a bit of craziness in Cape Coral. I've unfortunately stopped doing my Cape Coral Council Watch. It just there's too much on my plate. It was something I had to cut. But wow, there's quite a bit going on.
So let's frame the situation here. Okay, so of course we had Hurricane Ian come through last September. We're like 8 months out. So the big issue and question right now is the Cape Coral Yacht Club. It's one of the only historic buildings in Cape Coral. It actually predates the city of Cape Coral. It was built
the corporation of the city. So the city itself, Cape Coral, was founded by a bunch of real estate developers who saw this location and thought they could build a community out of it. It was
they thought they could make it like Venice.
Yes, it was it was.
That's why there's canals everywhere.
Yeah, it was a very fantastical
seawalls and long-term infrastructure. But anyway,
it was a fantasy that became a reality for sure. And the yacht club was a major aspect of that community starting out. It was a central part of it. It's an area where if you lived in Cape Coral, you visited the yacht club, you played in the pool, you played at the beach. And even before the hurricane, they were going to do a lot of renovations for the yacht club that were themselves very controversial. They were going to take away certain portions of it. They were going to make it a little bit more extravagant. Some of it was actually pretty cool plans, but a lot of people were frustrated because they want, we're a very conservative community here. We like preserving the aspects of our community that are valuable, and one of that is the yacht club. So now, because of the hurricane and the damage of the yacht club main location is going to get torn down, as is I think it's the Tony Rotino Senior Center or the ballroom. One of the other areas.
It was the ballroom, the whole area. But actually, hold on. I want to say, just before you jump into Cape Coral's a conservative area, I don't know if that's entirely the case, considering that in recent history we have had both a Democratic mayor and 2 Democratic city council members. So that was
well, I don't mean conservative politically. I mean conservative in the sense that we like our community the way it is. One of the big issues that constantly comes up in Cape Coral in terms of growth is, are we going to be like Miami, or are we going to have our own Cape Coral type of growth? So the people here are very local centric, and very much wanting to preserve the aspects of Cape Coral that make Cape Coral great, if you will. And so Yacht Club is a part of that. It's a part of our history and our tradition. And so people have been up in arms. Last week, they went into city council in droves, including Gloria Tate, who is a former city councilwoman. She's been here for 60 years. She runs the Cape Coral History Center, the History Museum. She's involved with the Chamber of Commerce. She's like a known name here. And she has apparently applied for the location to be put on the Florida Register of Historic Places, which I 100% support. But yeah, you had city council members blaming residents for it, and this is what really ticked me off as someone who had who was running for city council a few years ago. One of the reasons I wanted to run, and one of the reasons I made that attempt, is because the city council doesn't listen to the people, and this goes to another issue that we've been having where they've eliminated a lot of the advisory boards.
Mhm.
So if you're and especially if you're listening to this now, if you really want to get involved, look at your county and city advisory boards. These are wonderful ways to get involved. I am the chairman of the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board. That board basically helps decide where certain funds that we get from the federal government goes to different social services. So I actually very much enjoy serving on that board. But you had in Cape Coral, you had a Waterways Advisory Board, a Cape Competes Advisory Board, which is surprising because that was the one they just recently set up with the economic development plan. It was a part of the previous city managers, business proposals, which I actually thought was a very good proposal. It was something at the time I was the government affairs director with the Cape Coral Business Alliance, which is different from the Cape Coral Chamber of Commerce.
So hold on, I was gonna say this is like a ton of stuff, but let's loop back to the current
Correct.
controversy. Okay, the current controversy is so the damage, the Cape Coral Yacht Club had been damaged pretty significantly by the hurricane because of wind damage as well as water damage that came from the storm surge that came through because it's sitting right on the Calusa Hatch.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And there's some people, so although there's like total millions of dollars in damage, apparently some of it is resulting from deferred maintenance, and then only a small portion actually could be attributed, according to whatever calculation between the insurance company and FEMA, to the hurricane. So one of the decisions, the decision that the city council had made was that they were going to raise the building, sell the property for mixed use commercial space, in mixed use commercial residential space. And that was decided on 2 city council meetings ago. And now what you're talking about, the Gloria Tate trying to get the what do you call it, the historic designation, that came up this week. That was not an agenda item because this had already been decided upon, but there was such significant community outcry that people are still trying to fight. So she was one of them. And the controversy, of course, is that they put Tom Hayden, who's a current Cape Coral City Council member's name on the application. So now the city council is mad at Tom, but Tom's saying, like, wasn't like officially me. And then they're going, well, we should be united, blah, 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 blah. Back and forth.
No, first off, I think that's ridiculous. So there's a term in communism called democratic centralism, where that's what you're describing there, that you have to force unity. If Tom Hayden, and I respect Tom so much for trying to preserve our history, he's a journalist like I am, so he's been covering Cape Coral for quite some time. So I 100% stand with him with this trying to get on this designation, and it's petty, and I'm very disappointed if the city council's all mad at him because how dare he express his own opinions, and they did this to him before. Too.
This was the story that was in the news press today, saying that Gunter and Cummings and Steinke were very upset with Hayden. Cosden is playing the middle ground like she does because she's like, oh, I want to see the registration.
Cosden doesn't even need to, though. Cosden's termed out in 24, so she doesn't have any, I
mean, she also left the Democratic Party, so who knows?
Yes, I did hear that. She was at our Young Republicans meeting and announced that she was an independent. A round of applause. So
I don't know. So,
but yeah, she was a Democrat for quite some time, but she was always a very bipartisan Democrat.
Yeah.
And I've always appreciated her and respected her for that. But yeah, no.
But it doesn't matter because city council is a nonpartisan race.
It is. That's true. That's true. But here's the other thing too. This isn't the first time they've been angry at Tom Hayden for that too. He has gone to the press before to try to speak on things independently, and he's been chastised like, oh, you have to go through, the communications office and this. That's concerning to me because that comes off very authoritarian on the part of Mayor Gunther and the rest of the council.
The rest of the people who were endorsed by DeSantis. I'm just saying.
Well, I don't think Patty Cummings or Bill Steinke was. I don't even think the mayor was actually. No, he was not. Actually, no, because I remember I got his what was it? The mailer.
Well, I actually think Jennifer Nelson, who had also been a Democrat, was supported by DeSantis.
Oh no, he wasn't supported.
Anyway,
he didn't.
All I'm saying,
DeSantis
there might be just this authoritarian.
But the point is, though.
He was though.
No, he wasn't.
In city.
No, Gunther supported DeSantis. He supported in school board, but not city council.
All right.
Not city government.
Anyway,
school board.
So that's the hubbub in Cape Coral. Republicans are pissed off. Democrats are pissed off.
We're all pissed off because
everybody's pissed
this is
off.
a part of our history, and I didn't even realize that they were turning it into commercial development. That's just really stupid.
The plan was then to sell it, and there was that we're going to make money back. Would basically what it sounded like to me, even though some people are saying, oh, it sounds like there's some kind of kickbacks. Okay, maybe, I don't know, but it sounded like to me is there was a money pit that the city council had on its books, and the city council had an option to get rid of it, and they did. That's what it sounded like to me. So it was like they were like, we owe this amount of millions in deferred maintenance. We would have to do all this work. We would have to contract and blah 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 blah. And or we can just sell it, let somebody else develop it, make something that's really cool that will bring jobs and blah 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 to the city, and then they don't have to worry about it. And then
they were trying to play it from a fiscally conservative angle. That
like an ease angle, right? Like it solves the problem for them, so they don't have to deal with it. Yeah. So that's what it sounded like to me. That I don't, that may or may not be the case, but that's what it sounded like.
It definitely they needed. I mean, I think the historical designation will be the best because I'm pretty sure if you get the historical designation, wouldn't they be able to get funding in order to keep that preserved? Like what would go out there? Like would they be able to get assistance from the state? Could they perhaps? Like, did they go over all available options if it is a budgetary issue, if it is a financial hole?
I don't think so. I think they saw the money and I think they saw the clear path out.
Yeah, the easy way. They took the easy way, not the hard, not the difficult way.
It pissed off a lot of people.
I want to go back to the advisory board thing though, because I think that I want to talk about this because this is very important. The advisory boards that they're taking out, a lot of these they just set up. And it eliminates the ability for the citizen to be directly involved in these issues. And it really comes off as the city council doesn't care about the people's voice. And what they're wanting to do instead is do like different workshops with staff, not with city council, but with staff. And that's the real problem. Is city council wants the city, and this is all city councils, not even this city council, but all city councils have had this. They don't want to do the actual work of governing the city.
Participatory governance.
Exactly. They want to give it to the staff. They want to give it, and mind you, you have some wonderful staffers that I personally work with. Kimberly, the clerk, not the clerk, of course, but the city clerk there is wonderful. Betty Castillo, who I work with directly with my board. So, but at the same time,
staff's really good. But the thing is, staff also usually doesn't like participatory governance. And I can speak as somebody who's been an expert and an advocate in this area for over 20 years, is that it ends up being a challenge to the staff because staff, you get engineers and people who are coming with their specific areas. And when people start getting involved, it gets more challenging. So there's pushback from staff, or in this case, maybe agreement from staff to cut out public participation.
Yeah, and in this case, one of the reasons they gave is that it was taking up staff time, which I can understand as well, as that's a reasonable concern. But again, you eliminating, and some of the boards I think are relatively useless, like the Golf Course Advisory Board, for example. I don't really know why we have that for just the one golf course that we have. But like the Waterways Advisory Board, I felt was extremely important because we are a city of boaters, of fishermen, of people who use these canals. So having the Citizens Advisory Board for that, I felt was important. Yeah, the Parks and Recreation Board, which I think is a very important board, and I think where a lot of people want to be involved in is our Parks and Recreation. The Cape Competes Board had business leaders, giving advice from that, and so it's like, why are you eliminating the voice of the people? These boards that allow their input to come in. I just think that's very bad governance.
What sounds like me? Authoritarianism.
You just love that word. It's just like,
hey, listen,
we might as well make it the word.
Go ahead and put on that dictator too, right? But that's actually the big problem here, right? Is that thriving democracies and countries and communities, states and cities have an informed and involved population. Yeah. And I have been a longtime critic of how Fort Myers and Lee County and other jurisdictions in this area have actively stifled participation. And I mean, speaking of other controversies, there's a huge controversy right now with the Resilient Lee Task Force from the county.
Oh, okay. The Hurricane Task Force?
Yeah. Yes. It's the money that is coming, $1.1 billion in recovery, federal money coming in. They didn't think about the Dunbar community. It was the last town hall to come in, and It was the most populated one. It was over 300 people attended because people were so pissed off that they were not initially included in the town hall, plan. And if you look at how they had set up everything, it is completely favoring both developers and the network of the county commissioners. There's no what I would call regular, ordinary citizens who are involved in these task force. And it's very, very obvious. And especially if you consider 70% of that 1.1 billion has to go to low and middle income people. There are no low and middle income people actually involved in a decision-making capacity in that. So there's a huge uproar on that right now too.
I haven't heard anything about that, but I would agree. Like, you need, average Joe participation, if you will. You need the people, especially in this case, you need to, if not individuals who are low income, then organizations or nonprofits who are directly involved with that.
Well, you need both. And there's a mantra in community development on this called nothing, that says nothing for us without us.
Yes.
And that is a way to involve people, which is important. But here's the thing, and here's the thing that always bothers me when I hear technocrats and bureaucrats and politicians and officials say, oh, it's too messy, or how do we do this thing where we involve the people, right? If you don't, then you will fail. You will waste money, you'll waste time, and you will not create the best product and use for those public dollars. Yeah. And that's always, for me, the biggest thing, is if you involve the community that you are working to serve meaningfully and early in a process, you will end up with a better plan. Because what ends up happening, unfortunately, is that the technocrats will sit in a room, they will make a plan, and then they'll give it to the public, and they'll call it public comment, and the public will go, what the hell is this, right? Or whoever favors it will get a bunch of people that will show up, and they'll go, okay. But if you are giving people a completed project, you haven't involved them in it. And that's kind of where I think we're unfortunately going to go. And it's going to waste money and time and effort, and it's going to be pilfered off. And it already looks like that's a possibility.
I have seen that quite often in city government as well. They don't workshop the idea until you receive it after the fact. And then they're like, do you like this or do you not? And then even if they say not, you're like, oh, what are we going to do? Go back to the drawing board? You're just going to keep it anyway. So this is very similar to like what we were talking about a few weeks ago with the budget crisis, where they create a situation in which you have no other choice but to support it. And that is such a problem in all levels of government that needs to stop, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, no, and I agree. And it's very unfortunate that we're seeing it happen over and over again. And we're seeing the politicians either take the easy road, like we see with Cape Coral in the yacht club, right?
Yeah.
Or they're taking what appears to be a very corrupt path, where they're putting their political donors into powerful decision-making positions where money is going to go directly into their coffers. And this is a big problem.
Yeah.
And
isn't there something also going on with like Mike Greenwell as well? Because I know what's been going on with that? Because I know,
Okay, let's talk about Mike Greenwell. Mike Greenwell is a guy who was appointed to the Lee County Commission after Commissioner Mann had passed away. Then he ran for election and was elected in 2022 to a full term. All Lee County commissioners are elected at large throughout the county, so everybody votes, but he represents essentially the Lehigh, Buckingham, Alva area. He also happens to be a huge landowner in that area, okay? And that's it. Okay, great. He's a landowner. He's a business guy. He owns like Gator mics and all this kind of stuff. Except,
no, he doesn't own Gator mics anymore. But yes, he started. It used to be called Mike Greenwell's. It was actually an area. I used to go there as
the batting cages,
go karts.
As a kid.
Yes, it was a fun place to go as a kid. Still a great place to go, but it was his location, which is really how he was able to win that race.
He's a baseball player, so he could.
Well, again,
baseball player.
If you're from the community, especially in Cape Coral, you know Mike Greenwell. He ran on name recognition. He won on name recognition.
Red Sox fans. Anyway, okay. So South, though, he's a big landowner, and he's friends with developers. And the first thing that he did when he was put on city council,
county commission.
I'm sorry, you're right, county commission. The first thing that happened was he enabled the change of the zoning in the area where his property is, and which is essentially off 31, that's Palm Beach heading up towards Babcock Ranch. So that area right now, or had been zoned rural, has now been changed so that they can do both commercial and residential development there. So that's actually where the rub is coming in. So this is the Civic Center controversy.
Okay.
So the Lee County Civic Center is a large facility that's out in that northern part of Lee County.
North Fort Myers, and it's where they have the Lee County Fair every year. That's been there. I think it's going to be 100 years.
Yep.
This upcoming year.
4-H, like they have those kind of shows and things like that, and it serves the rural and agricultural community.
Yeah, and which is very important. People don't realize with Lee County, like we have a very strong rural agriculture. We have cattle, cattle people, especially in East Lee County, which is Mike Greenwell's district.
Yep.
We have a lot of a lot of farmland over there. And again, Lee Civic Center, like the yacht club, a historical part of our community, even longer than the yacht club, over 100 years.
Yep. So here's what's going on with that. So the Civic Center had been there for a long time, but it was a piece of county land and a county facility that had basically a public-private partnership with an association called the Lee County Civic Association and Civic Center Association, and that was like vendors and people who were involved in that facility, and they let that facility manage, or that association manage the facility. So earlier this year, the county had decided that they weren't going to do that anymore, that there were quote unquote the renovations that need to be done. And I think it was August, they were going to close it, and that was it. And it really upset obviously the people of the association, because there were other things that were planned there past August, and what do we do? And apparently this was part of the Greenwell plan, because he wants that land. And they want to be able to develop that land on 31 from Palm Beach all the way up to the Babcock Ranch, which is developer Sid Kitson's area. And so that's the deal. So it's actually like really, really like good old fashioned self-interested corruption.
This is
self-fashioned corruption, straight to the point, like right out there. And so not only that, but the most recently, so this is kind of part of the whole story, but we also, of course, have some restrictions in Lee County based on our flood zones and our flood maps, which have been since updated since the hurricane to include more areas, because as we found out, there's more areas. There's a moratorium on building residential areas in the most immediately affected coastal flood zones. Here's the fun part. Even though that's pretty far inland, that is actually a Zone A flood zone, because it's on the Caloosahatchee.
Yeah, exactly.
So that whole area that he wants to develop into this residential and mixed-use commercial zones is a flood risk. And Lee County just kicked down a proposed residential building in a flood zone A district, and now they're trying to push through another plan on Mike Greenwell's property in that area.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not super familiar with the story, but these are very serious allegations. Obviously a clear conflict of interest. At the very least, he needs to recuse himself from any votes involved in that, but it doesn't sound like he is. And again, this is the problem, especially when you elect people who have businesses or do businesses in industries that are directly connected to the city, like developers. They're going to be representing, and this happens all across the state, all across the country. You elect developers to make rules for them and their buddies that are beneficial to them, and it's very similar to what with Cape Coral. Why would they want to develop that up, put a building up there? I'm assuming that's in a flood zone A as well. I don't even know how they can even pull that off if they
don't know.
So they want to develop, sell that off and develop it. Who's going to benefit the developers? Who gets voted in? Our mayor is a real estate guy. Our city council,
they fund back to these organizations, to the city council and the county commission. The county commission particularly is got tons of developer money. There's not a single county commissioner right now that has not taken campaign donations from the real estate development industry.
Of course. So these people, because developers, want to make sure that the government that they buy benefits them. So it's definitely, and again, I'm not fully familiar with the accusations, so I don't want to go into full.
This is true. This is what I have heard from various activists and people that I know have been involved. It's an evolving issue, but I know that from the local reporting and the activists, these are the things that I've heard.
Yeah. So those are very serious allegations that we need to be watching. And in general, this is again why you have to pay attention to your local governments. Why you have to pay attention to what's going on there, because these type of stuff get thrown under the rug because everyone's paying attention to the fun stuff like President Trump getting indicted. So
is that
that's transition.
So we had another historic day here in the United States when on Thursday it was revealed that Donald Trump, and this was his own revelation, by the way, became the first former president of the United States to be charged with a federal crime. Then we saw the indictment itself be opened to the public on Friday with expected arraignment in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m.
So yeah, definitely very interesting. This is the one, I know when we were talking about the previous indictment with Stormy Daniels, that this is the one that I thought was the more serious one. And especially after reading the indictment, these allegations are serious. And I want to take a step back here for a moment, because, and we were talking about this earlier, about how in 2016, and my side has been doing the whataboutism game with 2016 and comparing it to Hillary Clinton. Now,
what about our emails?
Our emails. So the servers for me is the servers itself is probably the general thing though, is it was a national, we were concerned about national security and potential.
What about Benghazi?
The point is that we were concerned about national security secrets being held in an individual's personal, private residence. This is what happened with Donald Trump. So while Republicans are trying to spin this as, well, Hillary Clinton wasn't charged, why is Donald Trump being charged? The way I see it is we have to hold everyone by the same standard. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I definitely am supportive of an investigation and holding him accountable and having this trial play out. It's going to be playing out in his home turf with a judge that he appointed. So the chances are conviction, are wobbly probably. What I will say, I want to say a couple of things about the allegations of the indictment and the prosecutor. So first off, with the prosecutor, and in general with the prosecution, as much as we want to try to blame Joe Biden for this, Joe Biden is not prosecuting. Merrick Garland is not prosecuting. The reason that Merrick Garland put in a special prosecutor is to remove the politics from it. The indictment itself came from a grand jury, not from anyone from the Justice Department. So we do have to be clear about that. The prosecutor, Jack, go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you're somebody who's tweeting about this, I think you need to shut the fuck up. Byron Donald.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Chrissy.
No comment on that. But
if you're somebody who's directly trying to link Biden to this, you are wrong. And you're lying to people.
It is. It is definitely deceptive. It is definitely deceptive. They're trying to say that because the Justice Department is under the administration, that's why he's doing it. But then if we're talking about that, then that means like Bill Barr and all the attorney generals for Trump were also under him. And, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It is a clear manipulation. It is deception and it is lying, and it's done for political reason.
Yeah.
And it's being done by people who are supporting Trump explicitly.
Like it is a Trump support situation. It is a loyalty to him, and justice really needs to come above loyalty, I believe. I'm probably the only one, but yeah, this.
So I was gonna say, before you go on to Jack Smith, the other thing that I want to say, just in terms of the whataboutism with Hillary Clinton, we said this before too. It should be noted that there was no evidence that any information that had direct ties to national security threats was found or thought to have been contained on any of the servers or emails in question in the Hillary Clinton case.
So yeah, she mentioned that earlier, but I also
said it's clear because I was the first to say the reason it's different is because not only in the Trump case do we have evidence that there is secret, top secret, classified, tons of boxes. You've seen the pictures stacked up in the shower for some fucking reason. But
he likes to shower with the secrets.
But he is on tape. We have tape of him talking about it. And the documents do include information that includes military secrets, that include national security threats related to our energy, nuclear power of us and our allies.
It allegedly also contained information about not just our military, but our allies' military. So it puts our allies at risk.
It's our military
at risk. It puts our military at risk. And according to the indictment, there are at least 1 or 2 times where he has shown it to individuals, which I'm not
security clearance.
Without security clearance, which I'm, as much as I'm not 100% sure about, whether or not Hillary had anything on her server. They didn't find anything, of course, but that's different. We don't have any evidence that Hillary just showed national security stuff to another
an idiot who was interviewing him, and he got it on tape.
It was,
he showed it to a reporter.
Yeah, Trump, and it sounded when I was reading the indictment, it sounded like he was just being braggadocious, which is this like pride cometh before destruction. So clearly in that moment, it's just so obvious, and it's just read Proverbs. Pride, it's his boistering that brought him down in terms of that case.
All right, go back to Jack Smith now.
I wanted to say about Jack Smith is that this is the guy who indicted Sheldon Silver, who is the Democratic Speaker of the New York Assembly, for corruption. He prosecuted John Edwards. He's prosecuted Democrats and Republicans, so he is an equal opportunity prosecutor.
Yep, and a registered independent. And he was appointed as the special counsel specifically to keep the investigation away from political bias.
Yes, and I actually have a lot of trust in him. And he did say he wants to make it a speedy trial, which I hope they do. I'm hoping they can try to wrap this up before the primaries, before the primaries start, so that way we don't have to worry about.
Shit, I don't think there's a Democrat alive that would disagree with that.
Yeah,
we've been waiting a long time for this.
I know, and the great thing is that if he gets indicted, he faces up to 10 years in prison
for each count, up to 20 years for each
20
count.
years.
Yeah,
so he can try to go to prison and then still try to run from prison, just like, Eugene Victor Debs, the socialist candidate. And so it's very possible, but it'll be I think really that's why you have all these Republicans running, is they think he's going to be indicted and prosecuted. And once he's out of the race, who's going to run, who's going to take the mantle? Ron DeSantis sure seems like that guy, but, I don't really.
He is that guy.
He is that.
I don't know what that guy is, but
yeah, so. Guy. It was definitely interesting. Obviously, I want to see them get this wrapped up before the end of the year, so that way we can finally have some resolution here. This is, again, very serious when it comes to national security and national defense. And I think, regardless of your opinion on Trump, and I have like a love-hate relationship with Trump. There are a lot of things I like about him, a lot of things I don't like about him. I'm not a Trump cultist, but I'm not like a never Trumper. I'm very much sort of in the middle when it comes to him. But honestly, like, this is something that needs to be taken seriously, and that, we are as Republicans, we are the party, or usually the party, of national security
and law and order
and the rule of law. So this goes into all of those principles, and I am an individual, if not anything, an individual of principle. And so if he gets prosecuted, I support it. If he gets convicted, I support it. Because that is our justice system at work. And if you can't, do the crime, don't do the time type of situation.
Yeah, I'd love to see Republicans lean into their law and orderness on this, because this is clearly, like, beyond shadow of a doubt, like, illegal, damaging to national security. Mm-hmm. And by the way, let's not forget that the former General Petraeus was prosecuted under the very same type of.
He just didn't tell a reporter. He told his girlfriend.
Well, he was telling she was his biographer, right?
And / mistress.
Right, exactly. So,
well, now we have to figure out what the reporter of female did.
He pled guilty to that, right? And so this is like, you're not supposed to do that. And that was one. That was one document, not boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of documents. Okay, so.
And as Republicans, we need to ask this. If a Democrat did this, and quite frankly, you can argue this is what Hillary Clinton did, even though you're saying there wasn't national security secrets, that was our complaint. The point is,
Sure.
though, is if a Democrat did this, would we be angry about it? And the answer is
Tucker
yes, and
Carlson
rightfully so.
would be shitting out his own intestines and eating them live on Twitter if this was a Democrat, okay? Because that's how fucking angry he would be. Let me say this. I think Trump is a fucking dumpster fire, piece of shit person and a horrible fucking president. And I'm embarrassed every single fucking time I think that his name is going to be associated with our country in the books. I am further disgusted that this prosecution is taken so long that he was allowed to leave the White House with these documents, knowing what they were, and that we are sitting here with a treasonous person who is running for president again, and there's near a fucking Republican in the Republican Party that has the balls to stand up to them. The closest we have is Chris Christie, and even if you heard all the other Republican candidates right now pussyfoot around.
Yep, they're all
talking about it. Does Ron DeSantis,
Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson.
Okay.
Ron DeSantis is supporting him. Vivek Ramaswamy, who's one of the minor guys running for president, has already come out publicly and said he would pardon President Trump if he was elected.
Well, did too. So
I'm like, that was a weird one too. It's like, why is Mike Pence defending him here?
Yeah.
Of all people,
Mike Pence is probably like, oh shit, what's gonna blow back on me? That's probably what Mike Pence is. But you know,
no, he got cleared from his.
I know, but I think that he's got to be swimming that shit around in his head. Yeah, Ron DeSantis even not doing it. So grow a pair, call out treason, care about national security like you pretend to care when it was Hillary Clinton, and do the thing, right? And that's, I think, so I'm not happy about this. Let me say this. I'm not happy about it because I wish it didn't happen. I wish we didn't have this type of thing because we're talking about nuclear secrets and hurt our country.
That is another thing because you did just mention, like, why would we let him take it? Like, we had him, Mike Pence, Joe Biden. Like, how are they able to take these home? So whatever mechanism in government that is supposed to be protecting it, they've clearly failed, and it needs to be reformed there.
Yeah,
because I 100% agree with you there. No, whether it's Trump, Biden, Mike Pence, any
all these guys, right? They were saying like they were finding different documents all over the place in their private homes and the library, whatever.
It's like, how are these people like accidentally bringing home top secret documents?
I was lied to about how top secret documents are. It's invisible ink or the destruction paper.
Yeah. Or
like that self-destruct.
You really sometimes think that your government is a little bit smarter when it comes to national. I watch too many spy movies to this. I'm like, I'm disappointed. This is like
so fucking disappointed. I'm disappointed in all of this. And yeah, like okay, here's the other thing too. So like, I'm not happy about this. I do want justice to be served. I do want our country to be safe. I do want to go back to the era.
But we shouldn't have had a president.
We shouldn't have had a president that has been involved in this. And we can talk about the Russian ties because there are plenty. And if you want to read them, called Hiding in Plain Sight by Sarah Kendzior, it documents all the way back through the 1980s, Trump and his family's ties with Russia. So we're actually talking. So that's the other thing. This indictment is literally just about taking the documents. It doesn't even include the fucking people he showed them to, right? Like, because we don't actually know who had seen them, who information had been passed to, or what other pieces of information may have been missing and given to other entities, to whom, by the way, are enemies to the United States and continue to be and have had long-term relationships with Donald Trump, and many of whom have also been at Mar-a-Lago. So we're not even talking about that yet. I am so absolutely disgusted and saddened that this is America today. I am disgusted and saddened that we have been affected by malign influence campaigns out of Russia and China, but mostly Russia, to have a significant portion of Americans stewing online and believing falsehoods that enable this crook and fraud to continue to keep so much of our politics and our minds raptured. Okay. It's so sick and sad to me. And I wish we weren't in this state. I am horrified. I am scared. And I am worried about where we go from here, because the other thing that's really worrisome is how many people in the 100% always Trump camp are literally ready to kill people for this.
There is a lot of violent rhetoric that is going on this. And, you talk about this a lot, and I often dismiss some of the things you say as hyperbole. In this case, though, there have been violent rhetoric from key players. And this is again, why we started the show is because, we are so polarized, and countries like Russia and China do have sophisticated, cyber warfare capabilities with bots and with algorithms. They do all these things. It's provable. And it's not, an attack on Trump to say that. It's in fact an important aspect of national security. I remember when the Mueller report came out and, he had to go to Congress and everyone was asking him all those questions. There was one Congress member, I don't remember which, but specifically asked him about Russia. And Mueller would say later that he was so glad that someone brought that up because that was the real issue. Going back to our founding fathers, this is the reason that in order to be president, you had to be a natural born citizen. They were very concerned back in the founding fathers' day of foreign influence on U.S. national politics. It is why there is a lot of, quite frankly, racist immigration policies, right? They wanted to make sure that America stayed in control of Americans. And then, now obviously today, America is much more of a melting pot than it was in 1789. But I would still say that the people who should be running our government and influencing our government is the American citizens. And what Russia and China and all these bad actors have discovered is they don't need to control the government. They need to control the people who vote the government in.
Well, it's not even control. It's like they just need to cause enough chaos that we're all fighting each other. We're all confused and people don't know what the truth is. They don't know what really happened.
And then what China does with this is they show, their people this and their propaganda machines. Look how divided the United States is.
Yeah,
look at these people storming their Congress on January 6th. That won't happen at our communist Congress. People won't storm us because we suppress anyone who would try.
Well,
they don't say that, but
it's to undermine democracy. And it says, oh, look how crazy it is and how violent it is, and they suppress that, and they are looking for a reason to suppress their own people. I mean, so this is when I say, like, this is important for everybody in the world. And I think that so many things that are said about Reagan are like really, really wrong. But when he said that we're the beacon on the hill, right, for democracy,
we're the shining city on the hill.
That's right.
Which itself comes from a pastor from a colonial period where he talked about our new, going back to our new country. But yeah, we
are the democracy holders. We have to be the example around the world, have been, right? And when we give in to authoritarians, whether it's on the city council or in the state chambers, when we give in to people who are traitorous and colluding, not even colluding, but just, I don't even know how to describe it, benefiting from foreign influence, okay? Well, that we undermine ourselves, and then we are used as an example to undermine democracy and make people less free around the world.
Well, I don't think that if someone is an unwitting beneficiary, that they should be punished for being a useful idiot, for example.
I don't think that it's punishable. I agree.
Yeah. So, but yes, we need to be mindful, and we aren't because we don't have media literacy.
That's why it's
we
not
don't
colluding.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. So I was like, it's like, look, that word. We're so polarized these days, and that's what they're fueling on, and that anger of our division and our inability to see ourselves as Americans first, and just no, you're a Democrat, you're the enemy, or you're a Republican, you're the enemy. But I'm not gonna beat around the bush on that one. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to start maybe setting up like a segment or something that we do. Because CNN is starting to do Republican presidential town halls. Yeah. I obviously watched the Trump one. I just yesterday finished the Nikki Haley one. Tomorrow is going to be Chris Christie. So I am going to report back on you for all those town halls. I missed Mike Pence's, unfortunately, but I did see Nikki Haley's. Yeah, that would have been a fun one. I need to see if I did, because I kept seeing the advertisements on Nikki Haley's, but that was a week ago. So I'll see if I missed it or not. But with Nikki Haley, I was very impressed. She came when we were talking last week with her roast and write. I commented that she sounded very scripted. She did not in this town hall. She came with both facts and stories. She's a very good storyteller. It's one of her strengths. But she came off very personal and compassionate. Some areas that I thought were interesting when it comes to abortion. She did not commit to a national abortion ban. She actually said she doesn't think it's possible because it would require a 60 Senate majority, which I was like, yeah, it would be impossible. And she was smart to say that. And so she wants to find areas of consensus. She mentioned possibly late term abortion bans as a something she would get behind, but she was really focused on what can we get through Congress. She talked about the incident with the Confederate flag after the Dylan Roof shooting at the was Emmanuel Baptist Church, AME. She talked, very deeply. It was very emotional where she was talking about, what had happened at the church and her fight to get that flag off of the state capitol. And I had it was, she had to fight her own party. She had to, really challenge specifically the South Carolina House of Representatives. And that was a big profile and courage right there to be willing to go against your own party on this type of issue when they were a lot of conservatives are very passionate when they talk about history and the Confederate history is history, but
sure is fucking losers.
Yeah, exactly. They're the history of the losers, history of the traitors. You want to talk about unpatriotic, anti-American traitors. That's the Confederate States.
Speaking of which, Fort Liberty.
Oh yeah, apparently, I think Ron DeSantis is wanting to rename it back to Fort Bragg. What
a fucking traitor!
I don't get why is this such? What's wrong with Fort Liberty though? That's such a
Fort
cool
Liberty
name. I'm sorry, that's such a cool name. And I mean, look, I'm not a military. I haven't been in. I never served in the military, so I don't know if there's like a personal connection that I'm missing. But really, Fort Liberty sounds cool. I would love to be stationed at Fort Liberty.
It's a bunch of Confederate apologists.
Yeah, we actually have
Fort Liberty.
I don't look. I like Confederate history. I have said that before. I'm a history nerd, but I don't defend the Confederate States of America. They were traitors. They were fighting to keep people as property. I don't support that. That is antithetical to the values that I stand for. But going back to Nikki Haley, I think she did very well. She was very smart. Abortion and the Confederate flag were both really good, stances that she took. Talked about her time at the UN. One of the other things that they were talking about was healthcare access, and she came off very much like a moderate when it came to that. Where she was talking, it was very interesting because it was talking about senior healthcare and access across rural areas because she was in Iowa, and so it was very interesting to see her answer. It definitely didn't come out as a limited government conservative. It felt like she felt that government should be involved in that, which I thought was an interesting take. She talked about her husband apparently is deploying to Africa in the next couple of days, which is a very interesting situation to be running for president and your husband's, active duty South Carolina National Guard getting deployed in the middle of your campaign. That is crazy, but kudos to her.
How old is her husband?
40s or 50s. I don't know how. He must be like a senior officer or something.
I was like,
I don't think he's like going into
in
combat.
Her late 50s.
I'm sure, yeah. But yeah, so that's fair. But I found that very interesting.
Unless he's a cougar.
no, he does look. He looks like 40, 50.
Young military.
I don't think. No.
Nikki Haley, are you a cougar? If you are, send pics.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to look this up right now. Figure out who it was. I am searching now.
All right. So
Are we running a little on time?
I was gonna say.
But next week I'll talk about. It doesn't even have his age. Wow. They don't even tell us his age. But no, I saw they cut to him when she was asked that question, and he kind of looks like Michael Chiklis. I don't know if you know, he's the actor from The Shield, or like Bruce Willis, like an older bald guy. So, or like who's the?
It's not my flavor.
Yeah, he looks like one of Trump's military guys that was in his cabinet that ended up betraying him.
Oh Lord!
But yeah, so she's definitely not a cougar. She could pull it off. She could pull it off. I think.
Listen, but only Tinder and Grindr do count on the campaign trail. Anyway, okay, so Sean will bring us some additional updates on
I'll let you
Iowa. and
anything presidential campaigns, I'll make sure to give you guys updates on that. I know Chris Christie's town hall's on Monday, which, Chris Christie is one of the only, him and Asa Hutchinson are the only ones hitting on Trump.
Sure.
Chris Christie's going to be punching pretty hard, which is just, it's ironic because, he basically, flipped and endorsed Trump and became his little lapdog, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, even if like I really liked Chris Christie back in the day, it just really just rubs me the wrong way in terms of like, you go and support him. And the reason, I don't know if you know the reason why he supported him. Apparently, what had happened is Marco Rubio contacted him trying to get his endorsement. And something that Marco Rubio said made Chris Christie feel disrespected. And out of his pettiness, endorsed Trump. And then he got stuck with it. And so it's
that's great, though.
It sounds, but it really does. It sounds like Christie is a very, petty and wishy-washy guy. And it shows that, I'm willing to go to wherever I can go in order to win or get attention.
So other news in the presidential elections before we leave here today is Cornel West announced his bid for a third-party nomination for something like People's
Party. So actually, I have some information on this because I have been following the People's Party for quite some time, and I kind of had high hopes for them because I thought that if they had a strong third-party run, we would have better options. Obviously, so I was very interested in them, but they have been continuously disorganized, not just all over the place. I don't think they have the resources or the funds.
No.
But they wanted someone that's a big name. Cornel West is a big name for him, to get it. But the People's Party has been floundering. They've been wanting to set up a third-party progressive movement, and they haven't been able to do so successfully. If you want more information on this, by the way, there's a podcast, Generational Change, that we're actually trying to partner with now as well.
Jen Perlman was talking about it.
Yeah, that's where I get most of my information on most things Democrat, if I'm being honest. They are a very useful source of just Democrat and progressive information. And the People's, they've been covering the People's Party a lot. And that's where I get a lot of my information. So Generational Change, JEN, another podcast that you can listen to. Wonderful group of people. I'm hoping we can do a dual podcast. I'm trying to work with them on that. Both of us have been on their show. Actually, yeah. I've been on as non-corporate Republican. And then Cindy, I'm assuming you were there when you were running for Congress, right? Yeah,
that's progressive. I'm progressive too. Yeah. Well, I'm also a realist, and I understand how parties.
You're pragmatic progressive. You're pragmatic progressive.
And the thing is a third party candidacy for president is nothing more than a messaging piece.
Yeah.
You can't, you're not going to win. And all you're going to do is you're going to cannibalize the candidate that's closer to you.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a good idea. I think that there are better ways to make change, but if they feel like they want to make that message, then more power to them.
I don't think they're going to be able to get it out as much as they want. I want to comment before we go, though. I do see John Heim, who is a big environmental activist down here. Actually, he does a bunch of beach videos and very he has his eye on clean water and clean environment, the stuff that you like. But he wanted to bring up how harmful algae blooms are the biggest issue in Southwest Florida that get ignored by political leaders. I know that you're the Democratic Environmental Caucus chair, so I'll let you end with this since you probably have a lot of information.
Lake Okeechobee has, I think it's something like at this point 75 to 80% of it is covered with cyanobacteria, blue-green algae. There has already been a public health warning issued for East Lee County when it comes to the blue-green algae, and we have not even gotten into the full swing of the wet season, the rainy season, where we will be getting the distributions from Lake Okeechobee down the Caloosahatchee. So we are watching this. It is harmful. There is actually a statewide blue-green algae task force, and the FGC Water School is involved in it. It can be extremely harmful to human health. It can also kill seagrass, and other animal life all the way down. Fishermen, our boat captains, and people on the coast also hate it because it looks really gross and it can really negatively affect their
smells,
business.
doesn't it? It's one of the smelly ones.
If you remember a couple years ago, actually after Hurricane Irma, both Port St. Lucie and Fort Myers got hit really bad with it. And they're kind of thinking that maybe this will be somewhat similar. But the Port St. Lucie one, it looked like guacamole. Do you remember that? Where it was like big, chunky green. On this side, we basically, because we actually have more like distance between Lake Okeechobee and the Gulf than there is between Lake Okeechobee and the Atlantic and the Port St. Lucie side. So they kind of got it like jam packed, and it was like guacamole on the coast. Because it travels all the way down, it basically stifles the ability for anything to grow, like seagrass and stuff like that. So it'll start killing. You'll get manatee die-offs and things like that. Also, because of the toxins, the cyanobacteria toxin has a connection to an Alzheimer's-like disease in dolphins, which often will swim in the brackish waters in the Caloosahatchee as well. There is potential.
Not dolphin Alzheimer's.
Yeah, dolphins Alzheimer's. But like, there's also some potential to have some other neurological effects on humans. We don't know yet because there hasn't been a lot of research on it. People have experienced respiratory issues, and our local hospitals here in Southwest Florida have been tracking over the years people who are being admitted with potential exposure and consequences from blue-green algae. So yes, John, you're right. People talk about it, they greenwash it, they sweep it under the rug, and unfortunately we are in for another gross summer.
I do know, and I mean, I'm not super privy on the environmental science issues on this, so that's why I definitely want you to explain it. I do know the Cape Coral are trying these bubble curtains or bubble nets to try to prevent different algae blooms from coming into the canals. But yeah, we're trying to take preventative measures, but it's an environmental crisis. It is one that it doesn't get talked about until it becomes an issue.
Right.
And kudos to John and people like him who are out there being watchdogs on this and watching our environment, people like you as well.
And things like Cape Coral got hit pretty bad in the 2018 blue-green algae as well, because because of those chemicals, right? Like it goes in and it can get kind of trapped in those
which is why
areas.
We started doing these bubble nets, and it's also why we have these fertilizer ordinances to prevent the runoff, to try to stop,
which contributes to it. It's all new.
And people are like,
nutrients.
Well, we don't like it, and we don't like the business regulations, but it's unfortunately sometimes there's necessary regulations for protecting public health.
It also has a tendency to kill small dogs. So just FYI.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. We need to make sure to protect the puppies.
Yeah, protect the 100%. Puppies. All right.
Think about the puppies.
All right, so thank you to those of you who joined us, and thanks to my co-host, Sean.
Thank you.
And I have been your Democrat, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
I'm, of course, your Republican, Sean Hartman.
And we'll see you next time here on A Democrat and Republican Walk into a Bar. Thanks to Ollie's for hosting us. Be sure to come and check them out. They are open afterwards. We have comedy shows coming up and comedy workshops every Sunday. And we have a special event coming up on July 2nd. And there's going to be a big comedy show here that's not officially sponsored by Big Mouth Media, but a friend of the show will be having a special event here. So stick tuned for...
Oh, Chris Proya.
So we'll be having check it out. Some information coming on that this week. Otherwise, make sure that you are...
Fun fact about July 2nd, that was the date we actually gained our independence. Because it was when it was signed, but it was reported on July 4th, and that's why we celebrated on July 4th. So he's doing comedy on Independence Day. All right.
So be sure to help support independent media just like ours. Get a subscription. You can get all this, the video, everything for $4.99 a month, and help keep independent media alive. And if you want more information about all of our shows or to subscribe to any of our other shows, you can subscribe and get everything for $19.99 a month, and that again helps independent media. And you can see all of our amazing shows, and we have brand new shows coming up, like the new special series coming out of the North Carolina A&T leadership faculty called Conversations on Community and Leadership. So that's some amazing, interesting interviews with people doing on the ground work in Greensboro, North Carolina. So very special series there. Also great other materials coming out. Check us out at bigmouthmediafl.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you next week.